Hello everyone, I'm Annie Gibbins and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success and what they have learnt along the way. Hello everybody. I'm super excited today to be interviewing Dr. Talat Uppal on Memoirs of Successful Women. She's an obstetrician and gynaecologist who works at the Northern Beaches Hospital and Hornsby Ku-ring-gai, and she's also the director of the Women's Health Road, where she set up an innovative, digitally integrated, multidisciplinary obstetric and gynecological service with in-house ultrasound services, of which she is a specialist in. She also obviously is a spokesperson for obstetricians. She's certainly a female advocate for all women in medicine, and I'm super excited about unpacking her journey today. So welcome to the program, Dr. Talat.
Thank you, Annie. It's my honor and my privilege to be on this show with you today. Thank you in advance.
It's a pleasure. So tell me, what does life look like for you? You're a top obstetrician, gynecologist. You've just set up your own practice. What does a week in the life of Dr. Uppal look like?
Thank you for asking, Annie. So I would say that my biggest emotion is fun and joy. I look at the end of a day and I realize that it has been, generally speaking, such a fun journey. Even if I'm tired, even if I have looked after women with loss, because not all parts of our job are, always constantly filled with joy. There are times that we obviously are managing women looking after miscarriage or perinatal loss, and that's a very sad space to be. But despite that, I think that enthusiasm and just basically positivity that engulfs most of my days. And so partly I attribute that to being in a job that I enjoy. Sometimes I actually think it's a hobby and someone's paying me for my hobby, because you feel that degree of this is really like a fish in water type stuff.
Yeah.
And even as a medical student, Annie, the first day I went to birthing unit and worked in women's health, I just felt this is what I've been put on the planet for. And everybody has those moments, or mostly people have those moments. And I think when you get a combination of what you truly enjoy and where your true passion is, aligned with actually that's the line in which you're working every single day, it does make it easier and it does make it very fulfilling. And so, yes, so you asked about my week, and my week would be a combination of obstetrics and gynecology. So I do both, and I do a mixture of public and private work, which I love that combination because I think it gives variety to the day. And we met through the Assam connection when you were the CEO of Australian Society of Ultrasound in Medicine. And so I really think that ultrasound is now almost like a sixth sense. And, it's like it gives you literally eyes into the pelvis. And so, or into the womb, whichever context you're scanning someone in. And I think that combination of having a clinician with that additional skill really does add to the more of a comprehensive assessment that you can do and make a plan without needing to have a back and forth service where, for example, let's say we're looking after someone in early pregnancy. I'm just so lucky that we can do things under one roof here. And so we would scan a lady, give a result, discuss, make a plan. If she wants surgery, we organize that across the road in the hospital. If she needs, to come back and follow up with us. Again, it's a very integrated service. And the other reason why I think my week is so fulfilling is because I'm working with a team that aligns with the same core philosophy. I've been so lucky that our front staff and our receptionist are younger women and very digitally savvy and gifted. We call them fembots. And it has really enhanced my view of younger people. I think they have so much energy to bring to a workplace that also balances our team out, where they are different, a whole different group of people in different ages and different, different circumstances. I really think, Annie, that the days of a specialist in a little dark room by themselves, seeing patient after patient after patient, are probably over. Generally speaking, the future is collaborative. Yeah. The future is recognizing that all of us is more than any parts of us, and that everyone in the team has a unique skill. And I might be good at my aspect of the job, but our midwife, our practice midwife, Gail, brings amazing icing on the cake, information, and also an approach for patients. Because we don't always want to medicalize childbirth and antenatal journeys. We want to keep them as physiological as we can, being mindful that obviously some patients have risk and we need to manage those. But at the same time, we don't want to take away the fact that this is essentially a physiological process at its core. And so again, I feel that combined approach brings a better support for women in that journey. And the other thing that I like about my day-to-day week is that it's very mindful of mental health. I'm so glad that the stigma around mental health and the taboo is slowly being, picked at, and saying, look, it's okay to have days where you're feeling blue, or it's not that we need to really destigmatize this part of, both the people we work with and the patients we care for, and ourselves as well. And that self-care is so critical. So back to what you asked, I think the week, generally speaking, is quite fulfilling. It is often busy, and I've only focused on the work, but really the essential of our being is family. And so I am so lucky that I have 3 beautiful children. I have a husband that's supportive, and I have my parents is still well into their 80s and alive, and both are, they're so cute, and they've constantly been there for us, for my sister and I. And my sister is a specialist as well. She's an ICU specialist and has 2 adorable children and a dog that's so gorgeous. Can't leave out the family dog. But I guess, Annie, I feel that with family, you do get that, with your children, obviously there are times that are tricky, but for the most part, it's so, it just makes you whole.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I must say, for those listening, I just recently went to Talat's opening of her new Women's Health Road Centre, and I was blown away by a few things. One, it was just an honor to be there and celebrate that huge moment with you, but also, your family were there to share in that very, very significant moment. It's a huge thing to bravely go and buy a house, renovate it, make it into a medical practice, learn how to do all of the IT and the cloud-based systems, and then also the incredible beautiful sense of collaboration, which is what you just touched on there, hearing from midwives and physios, and that's right, mental health, the fact that you could come to a centre like that and be okay to share, I am having some blue times, and I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm supposed to be deliriously happy. I've just had a baby. What's wrong with me? And the fact that nothing is wrong with you. This is, it's a place that you can actually be a whole woman, and a real woman, just experiencing the highs and lows, which is
that's
the whole
right. That's
journey,
right, Annie.
And
that's right. And allied health have so much to offer. Like a women's health physio has so much to bring to the table, and I feel that partnership, and you touched on it. The digital side is so important, and I think that's been a really fun. I've almost felt like I was making Lego, and to have the partnership with, like, we went with a software company that's also quite innovative. So
Yeah.
Clinic to Cloud, I must say, have been quite. They've really understood our specific and unique needs, and very patient-centric, sort of an obsession almost, that we want to put the woman at the center and her family at the center of all us carers. And to do that, Annie, you really need in these days to be connected digitally. So, for example, if the physio in our service has done a review, then I'm not asking the patient, what did the physio say? I'm actually looking at her notes and reading her GP letter, and then being very familiar. And therefore, I think it's important to connect around the woman rather than through the patient.
Yes.
And the other aspect that I've really enjoyed with this new practice, that's still a learning curve for us, is a patient portal. So I feel that because I'm sort of gone into private practice a bit later than some of my colleagues, because I was in a staff specialist position for a decade in my previous role as director at Manly and Monaville Maternity and Women's Health and director there, I did feel that, I must say, at sometimes I felt that, is the private a bit overwhelming, or am I going to enjoy it? I do have a very community health focus, and will that really be my thing? But I feel that one of the main reasons why I've enjoyed it is because I didn't realize that digitally and technology has made it so much easier for us. And I had these visions, Annie, that we'd be chasing results all day, whereas everything is so streamlined. Of course, you still have to obviously answer emails. You still have to, there's a lot of extra work, but it's far less than what I thought it would be, because I think we set up something in a really organized way, then you're less likely to be managing chaos-related issues. Do you know what I mean? So I feel that patient portal then allows women to have an interface with us, and we can put their results in it, and we can also put pre-operative information in it. And I think it's different to giving someone a pamphlet like we used to previously. Yeah. Kinder to the environment, and it's at the woman's touch of her fingers. So she can then show it to her friends or to her mother, or sometimes want to go home and talk to their husband or their partner, or, you know, it's just so much more freedom and liberating, both for patients and for the clinicians.
I think it's just such a brilliant advancement in the way, one thing from the patient perspective, to be so involved and integrated into their care plan, and then from the physician perspective to actually have all of that done. The fact that as a clinician, you know, you often just think of the clinical skills and how impressive they are, but the honest truth that, yeah, when you set up a practice, you actually do need to know the whole of business approach and how does it all integrate, and it's a huge learning curve.
That's right.
How it is then frees you up when you get it right. It frees you
so
up
right, Annie. Yes.
Doing what you want to do. You don't want to be problem solving and where are results and all this admin. You want to be there with your patient. You want to be...
Exactly, Annie, you've nailed it. That even though I am very managerially focused, you want to spend time with the woman or with your patient. You don't want to spend most of the time doing paperwork. And especially for me, I'm a two-finger typer.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I wanted to really not be dwelling on too much of that. It's impossible to do away with it completely. But even things like having voice recognition, and it just makes the notes almost flow. And so it saves me time. And again, if we have consult time of 20 minutes or whatever different consult times are, then I'm finding I'm spending 16 or 15 minutes of that talking to the woman and engaging with her. And that's exactly what you want. You want technology to enable our platforms rather than being something that you whinge about or find difficult or find uphill.
Exactly.
And sometimes there have been issues and we've tweaked and we're constantly learning and making some mistakes that we learn from. But overall, I must say that has been an enabler I have found in the private system.
Brilliant. I also think it'd be a huge confidence builder for, although, you know, when you're the patient or the client having that service, you assume everything's being looked after, but that's it. When you are a patient and people can't find your records or don't know where your results are or things like that, you it's very easy to get that feeling of, well, who's actually managing me? You know, I'm in a situation that I'm actually out of my comfort zone. I'm assuming there's some professionals, and is it my GP? Is it my obstetrician? Is it the sonographer? Is it, you know, who actually, and I know because I've been in health education for a couple of decades, it doesn't matter what disease state it is or what health condition it is, there's always a multidisciplinary team. And it's all, as the patient, it's kind of like going, well, who actually is pulling all this together? And so it's a really comforting thought, I imagine, if it came into your clinic and you go, oh, that's right, I can do everything here, plus I have the expert team here, and any result that we need, it's all at our fingertips and very open and transparent. You know, I think
that's Annie, you have nailed it. That's exactly the philosophy. And I think what happens is that once you organize the workflow in that way. So for example, like our GPs are our referrers, and they're also such a critical role they play for women in terms of managing their day-to-day issues, and they're called specialists in life for a reason, because they provide that amazing service. And I feel that it's part of us respecting them. And so our letters go out that same day, usually just after the patient has left the room. But if we are obviously catching up or busy, or I've had to rush for a delivery or something, then they go at the end of the working day. Hardly ever do we have any accumulation of our letters, unless we're waiting for a particular result or some sort of exceptional situation. So I'm also enjoying that communication, not only with the patient and within our own little team, but it's actually the other stakeholders that we engage with, and how can we do that in a more professional way, respecting them, but also in a timely way. Because I have had instances where patients, after seeing us, have developed something new and have had to go and see the GP, and they've already got the information from our end, which is great. Because typically the digital system in Australia, and in fact the whole healthcare system, might be considered somewhat fragmented by many of us. And this is not a criticism, it's a really good health system. We don't always talk to each other electronically in the best possible way. We know that.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to move on now to, you speak out openly about, you know, gender differences in health professionals and diversity, the area of gender and diversity. So as a woman, as a senior specialist, you know, in a hospital, how have you found that road to be, you know, as a woman up the ranks?
So first of all, Annie, I think that there's a lot of good change happening. So I can palpate that. It is palpable, okay? Because for various reasons, I feel that obviously women are more empowered. We do recognize that in general, women are disadvantaged both from womb to tomb, as it is said. That, you know, sometimes, especially when you look at places where female infanticide is not uncommon. People diagnose and say, okay, it's a girl, we're going to abort it. So there are lots of disadvantage that start so early, even before a girl is born. And so then there are other challenges along the journey. Women may have less access to education. That's not necessarily the case in Australia, where in many institutions, as we well know, university students and medical students intake are now more women. And even particularly in my own field, obstetricians and gynecologists, there's certainly more interest from female registrars entering the specialty. But that notwithstanding, we cannot underestimate the disadvantage that women feel at different levels. And that whole intersectional concept of, if you add on, you know, there's sexism, then there might be some element of racism in different contexts and at different times, that it does become hard for women of color, particularly, I think, is a group of where we are often very underrepresented. And I cannot tell you how many times I've been in forums, in, you know, platforms, in areas where I cannot see who I want to be. There is no female professor there that's a woman of color. So many times I'm in big rooms and I do not see who I want to be. There are very few women in clinical leadership in obstetrics and gynecology, and that again is a changing field. It's not anywhere the sort of statistics we had a decade ago. But even if you look at, you know, for example, our local area, there are very few, there's actually hardly any women in leadership positions in obstetrics and gynecology. So, and this is not to say that, look, anyone is going into a hospital and saying, look, I'm not going to allow women to lead. But unfortunately, there is still, either we say, look, they're just no capable women,
Yeah, what's the likelihood?
In a whole geographical area. Or we say, look, something is very wrong.
Yeah.
That we are not empowering. I've had so many women say to me, I don't even bother to apply because I know I'm not going to be selected.
Wow.
Why?
Wow.
So my advice to women is, please apply. It does not matter if you don't get the job. It is okay. It's not a big deal. In fact, we have a very, I'll give you a picture of it, of a picture we have, which is a door. It's a series of doors. And it's a hashtag that I've started, which is called Make Your Own Door. And basically what I'm saying, Annie, is that many times the doors that should open for you don't.
Yes.
And this is the journey of many women. And if they don't open for you, then try and make your own door. And this is my message to especially younger ones that come behind us, because it's very easy to get overwhelmed or to think, oh my gosh, it's a boys' club, or how am I going to survive in this, or how am I going to find my feet? I've had so many women, particularly more and more when I'm working in the gender and diversity space, communicate that they don't even feel empowered to challenge.
Yes.
So even that takes confidence and guts to be able to say, hang on, how come there are 10 positions and 8 of them are occupied by men? Or it's a stereotype of a person who is in leadership. That's not the only person that has capability or has merit.
Yeah.
So why is our top not reflecting what we find at the ground or at the coalface? So that conversation, I think, is important to have and to highlight. And my experience has been, Annie, that, and I've called this out many, many times over the years, and I have found that although it often does not help your own personal cause, but it helps those that come behind you.
Oh,
and
100%. Yes.
And there's so many little things later on I noticed happen that I realized that person has actually taken on board my feedback. So I would say that don't think of yourself if you're in a situation, and I know it's easy for me to say because I am established, but so maybe I'm not articulating that well. I'm just trying to encourage people to articulate what their authentic self is feeling.
Yes. Yes.
Because that will help change the platform. And this is not just about women. This is not just about color. This is about diversity, including disability. This is including and empowering and valuing our Indigenous community. It is so much more than diversity. Just means, can we have the top looking like what it is at the workplace?
You're looking for equality. You're looking for merit-based equality. That, if that's right, if everyone has the opportunity, whatever their diverse situation is, have the opportunity in a free, open context to be able to apply for something, to be able to grow into those roles, then that's actually what you're wanting. It's not anti-male. It's not
It's not at all.
It's actually just saying exactly that point that you said. If you go in somewhere and 9 out of 10 are men, it's like, well, that's right. Are women just not very good, or is there something else happening? And I think I appreciate the other point, because I very much have that position of, you are doing it to be, we're still in a pioneering state as women, definitely in our country. And I know that for myself. I go, well, I'll just keep pushing, because it might be me, but it's definitely going to be the women after me, and it's because of that. It's because of what my grandmothers did in their time.
That we are voting.
That we're actually voting. It's because
out of the kitchen.
shows, both mine were very pioneering in their time, and they both became professionals, which was very, badly looked upon then. And so, but because they pushed those boundaries and said, well, I have a mind, I want to use it, I want to be, contribute in this way, that sort of was more challenging for them, but it actually opened up a path for women. And it's because women like you are actually going into those rooms and go, oh, hello, am I just the token female, or is something?
I've asked that many times.
I bet you have. And and it's bold.
Defensive reaction of no, we were going to invite someone else, and we were no, you're not. And I'm always thinking that no, I'm just, it's so interesting the response that I get.
Yeah, I know. that you joke about it, but it's not a joke, you know, and it requires women in positions such as yourself, such as myself, such as many that I work with, to actually be going, you know, I'm happy to use that opportunity that I have to be able to push for myself, but also push for other women, that they will have these opportunities and they won't have as hard a time as me. And also that it's a good thing for, you know, it's actually not even about men and women or people, you know, able-bodied versus people with disabilities or, you know, sexual preference or anything. It actually is about, just equality. It's about having an environment that reflects true society, right?
Exactly.
And that's what you're wanting, because that's who your patients are. Your patients are everybody, every mix of person, you know, in society. So
it's so well put. We want everybody at the table and a voice with that seat. So not just, like you said, a token gesture. We actually want that division so that it's, you know, the power is not held just by a few. It's actually divided amongst the team. And I think the other thing that I wanted to highlight is that there are many male champions of change. So I think whilst we as women are soldiering, there are many role models as well that actually have been part of this good change that I value. So, and I think it's so powerful when men recognize that, look, there is a problem. There are women with merit that are constantly being overlooked. There are more mediocre candidates that get ahead just because of privilege. So, and it's so easy. And I have a book-long thing that people have, you know, debriefed with me about, or, you know, comments have been made about their pregnancies that were so unprofessional, or comments, you know, just little things that, or big things. There's still a big disadvantage that we face. There's no doubt about it most of the times.
Yes. Okay.
But there's lots of good work. I'm really glad that our college at Ranscog has organized a gender and equity committee that is doing work in that space. So I think the first thing, and although on a number of levels, I've had a few people say, oh, it's just a token. It's just a token service. Not necessarily about the college, but general gender and equity, different committees. But then I always go back and say, look, 10 years ago, was anybody having this discussion? So even if it's token, at least we're talking about it. At least we're empowered enough to say,
yes,
we feel uncomfortable about, you know, the numbers or the glass ceiling issues. Or so even that is the progress.
Oh, that is huge progress, Talat, because I was working in a senior role with one of the specialties, only 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, and they had a policy that people on the program couldn't have more than 2 children. Women could not have more than 2 children, or they got kicked off the fellowship program, you know, and that's not very long ago, you know, and then it's like, how is that possible? When they have 3, they just, it's like, oh yeah, they wouldn't be able to keep up with.
You can't now manage and juggle everything, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, wow. So, you know, this is how far we have still, you know, we've come. So the fact that you actually have a college that has it on the table and says, okay, well, let's address it as an issue. And we are doing many things really well. And that's not just women who are campaigning for this. There are many fantastic men who are supporting and advocating for you. I mean, I even found that, you know, launching my biography, which had a lot of personal sharing and traumas and stuff, I actually had a lot of men go, well done, you do this is really important for women. And it's wonderful.
How powerful is that, Annie? Because we are for change that is, you know, changing the dynamics for, especially, like we said, those that come behind us. Because we definitely want to do our little bit. Our grandmas did what they could do to make things better for us, and we have such a huge ethical obligation to try and level the playing field for those that come behind us.
So take us back now. What was the young Talat's life like? Did you know, when you were a little girl, did you think, you know, you said before actually at the opening of this podcast that you knew as soon as you stepped into that obstetric room that, oh my gosh, I want to be an obstetrician. But so was that right from childhood?
So no, Annie, actually it wasn't. And I think maybe it's in I was born into a very mathematical family. So my father is a professor of mathematics, as is my mum. They're both very high achievers in their field. And so it was quite an academic household, and education was really valued. I must say that I had some subtle encouragement to consider medicine. I was not necessarily thinking about becoming a doctor. And this was not pressure or anything like that. But I think in a whole generation, and many Desi people would understand what I'm talking about, but there's a lot of pressure for people to consider becoming a doctor or an engineer.
Yeah.
And so and for me, my dad did want me to consider that. It was not in a nasty way at all. Anyway, so I did do medicine very much like, oh, okay, I'll do it because my dad wants me to do it, which sounds silly now, but really, really, I think it was not until as a fourth year medical student that when I was in an obstetric and gynecology ward, and I've grown up in Africa, I grew up in Nigeria, and so I was in a big tertiary hospital that we were attached to as medical students. And so I just felt that, my gosh, this is just where I belong. And although, there's no way I can glamorize that the how difficult obstetrics was there, because your resources are so limited, and all those things like using a torchlight to do a cesarean section, these are my first-hand experiences. These are not someone telling me something or me reading or watching, and just women dying for lack of money or lack of resources or timely access to healthcare. So, and I would like to share a little story. So when I grew up, the hospital that I was working in, they would give us certain bottles in the morning. As an intern, that was my job to help organize the ward round for the consultant. And we would only be rationed certain pathology bottles. And I don't want to be critical, but I'm sure that's one way of gatekeeping how many tests get done that day. So anyway, when I came to Australia, I remember my first time as an intern in the hospital, I opened the drawer and I saw heaps of pathology bottles. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
So much.
Heaven, we are so lucky, and so our system is so robust, and it's so easy for us to be critical of parts of it, but overall I think we are very blessed in our country to have all of these resources. But I think that background, Annie, does teach you to ration better and to prioritize and to basically do more with less. It's a lesson that I learned very early, but I think so. Even like my ward round, during getting things organized for the ward round, we had to turn around the patient ledger. So there used to be a patient folder, obviously very handwritten records in those times, but every patient I had to turn around the ledger and see what her records and how much finances she had. So very early I learned to provide healthcare, that I had to present a plan that was actually thought through the financial lens as well. And I wonder whether that was where I started enjoying that aspect of medicine in terms of both clinical and a little bit of a managerial focus. So those are my days in Africa. And then I migrated very soon after becoming a doctor. I only did a year of internship there, which I came here and then got into the system and did all my training here in obstetrics and gynecology. So we do a country term. So 6 months I went to double, and that was an amazing experience. I was pregnant then with my son, and so was I have had hyperemesis, so lots of vomiting and all that, which is not detail I necessarily need to share. But it's just, I guess, Annie, full well, having raised 6 kids so well, that that you're always juggling so many balls in the air.
So many.
Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Every day. That's right. You're not just at work. You're at work thinking of, 50 million things that are on your list with the kids, or what's happening, where they're getting picked up, dropped off, have you packed the right thing, what are you having for dinner?
That's right.
Someone's got a cold, I hope they're feeling well. Like the female brain is just phenomenal the way we sort of do that, and then suddenly you then have this incredible focus while at work as well. So
yes, very well put.
I admire you, particularly when you're learning something new. That's even hard when you're maintaining, when you have those skills and you're still juggling just normal business and life, right? But when you're in a growth phase, that you were doing a traineeship, or you're doing university studies and other things, that your brain's you're at this higher level of concentration. It really is an incredible, extraordinary time.
That's right. And somebody put it well to me that I've kept, I thought that was a good concept, that when you're younger, you often have less affordability, so less options with childcare, or not necessarily able to pay a nanny, or, there are lots of things that are very restrictive often when you are young, and then you're also junior in your career. So it may not be the point at which you can say, look, I'm just going to go part-time, or I'm not going to work Saturdays, or I'm not, it is a hard combination that you're junior, your kids are little, and so the demands on you are very, very real in terms of all the nappies and the milk and the and all of that. And then suddenly you may go into another phase where you may have established a bit more in the career, may have more affordability, and be able to afford perhaps more support for yourself and for your family, and the children in some cases have grown up not helping, and so therefore it's perhaps not as dysfunctional as it, or dysfunction is not probably the word, but you know what I'm trying to say, as overwhelming as it can be when you are trying to find your feet everywhere at the same time.
So hard. I mean, I relate to that. I remember because I had two sets of twins, as you know.
Yes.
I had the first twins. Between the first and the second twins, I still went back and did some night duties while like still expressing, because I was breastfeeding them and everything. And I had people going, oh my gosh, why are you trying to be super mum? Why are you doing that? But I was only 23 years old. Like, I had baby twins. We didn't have money. It wasn't as if I had it. I'm like going, oh my gosh, how can we even afford? What am I going to do when I have the next set? Because you don't have that luxury. It's not as if you just kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, I'll be an at-home mum now. Like there are costs, and these are big decisions, and you're still growing up into yourself. Whereas that's right at another stage. I'm quite happy to go, yes, outsource cleaning, outsource other things that allow you to be more, but you're at a stage where you can make those choices, so
that's
it's
right,
not
Annie.
When women, that's why I love hearing these stories, because when women sometimes look at other women, you're going to go, oh, well, they've got it all together. And you're kind of like going, well, sometimes they're like little ducks, right? If things
exactly, very many times.
And they're making it look better than it is. Or also, you've got no idea what their support systems are, and then what their context of life is, and who's behind them, who's got that fantastic family, and who's got no one, who's got financial security, and who is really scraping by, who actually has, health issues hiding, that I haven't been made aware of, that's so easy to judge. And that's exactly it. I think that's incredibly admirable when you are off doing that and you're still pregnant and trying to, juggle it all. In a
keep
time
going forward.
There was a lot of judgment, like, oh gosh, she's gonna, this pregnant one.
The other reflection I have is that I think that there's some very safe social media spaces now that are groups of people that might be like-minded. And sometimes I look in some of those spaces that I am a part of, and I think, oh, I wish this was there 15 years ago when my kids were younger. So like, these are some very candid forums, and women are saying, oh, it's okay if my house is dirty today. Oh, it's okay if I didn't, I know. It's nice to have that authentic, not all of us are all the time able to manage everything really well. And I think that social media has given us that little, glimpse of, in some cases, and obviously you and I know that it can be quite negative in other circumstances with the peer pressure and all that. But I must say that I actually encourage women to be part of those kind of supportive groups, because I personally, at a personal level, I find it quite refreshing to say many, many times anywhere I felt, oh, okay, I'm not the only one that felt that. And not that you want anybody else to have anything negative or anything you know what I'm trying to say, but it does give you that sense of you're not alone.
Yes.
And I think that maybe was something a while ago that we had to make a conscious effort to phone someone or go and visit someone, or you didn't have that luxury of just connecting in that way. I mean, look how we are connected. How many times do we actually meet? But, I wouldn't, like, it's just that feeling of that deeper connection, which sometimes I think that I'm better connected with some of the people that I'm on social media than I may be, let's say, with a neighbor, and we're not trying to say we should do away with any of that. But isn't it interesting how that has also become a very positive thing? And in my case, Annie, we have a number of similar women to myself, all who have that interest of doing a bit more than just a normal job, if I can put it that way, and want to be creative and want to be either in education or in media or in, simulation or in various different things, have this niche that they have developed. And it's so nice to have that connection. Yes. Because you feel, well, there you go, you're a part of a group as well.
Yeah. And I think that's absolutely. And so important. It's so important on a few levels. One, even when you're the senior person and you're running places and in these positions, you need your own friendships. You need your own opportunities to be real and take time out to do that and to really care for yourself and not always having to be the one who's got it all together, to be real. Also, you touched on there too, which is what I found too. I remember when, like a decade ago when we were all getting social, people were very worried, we're going to lose these personal skills. Whereas actually now it's sort of really interesting that it's evolved to, I'm a bit like you, we can tap in and out just with the messenger or catch up or whatever. And it's actually really nice. In fact, I don't have to do the effort of getting all organized and taking time out around business.
Exactly. So much
easier. Just drop in and out, which is almost like family. It's like calling, like, how you going? Thinking of you. Hope this goes well, whatever. And that's all that's required, And that's so it's just a ongoing touch points and engagement, which actually adds incredible value rather than the, once or twice big events that's a bit more formal.
Yes, which we still crave and enjoy, but I think you're very right that connection has become so much easier. And as we age, I feel that you become more confident to select what feels right and be able to say, look, my time is so important. I'm only going to do things that give me joy or that are more fulfilling. But I must say I really value that, and I think we're very alike when it comes to that.
I think so. I'm definitely feeling a kindred spirit there. What have been your biggest challenges throughout your career, Talat?
So one would be, I would say, having children have been my biggest joy, but also because all three of my pregnancies were complicated by hyperemesis, and to the point that because I do so much education, many times I go into forums to teach, and people remember and they'll be like, oh, Dr. Uppal, good to see you. And I think they're going to say something nice, and then they go, you were always vomiting. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. I'm a good vomiter.
I'm known as the vomiting doctor.
But we had so many jokes. They were like, we're going to engrave your name in the pan room. But can you believe that, I've actually had situations where I was sitting with the pole getting IV fluids and writing my notes, and one of my professor comes and I think, okay, he's going to send me home. And then he just taps me on the shoulder and goes, you'll be all right. And he goes home. And I'm like, I'm not very well, am I? I'm sitting with an IV pole.
I think he's going to work on his bedside manner, a bit of compassion, and be like, you'll be right. Have a few vomits and get back to work.
Okay. And I'm like, okay. So I just continue writing my notes. But that's again another thing I think that has changed. I do feel that I don't think anybody would.
No.
Yeah, I think that would be.
You don't have to do that these days.
Yeah, I do think that the intention is to support women, and in their own way they were supportive. I'm not criticizing it. That was the era.
It was an era, and it's very easy to look back and judge other eras, whereas in their era it was the norm, So
that was the norm, and it was the fact that you've chosen to fall pregnant, and there are only 8 of your colleagues. We have to run, we have to service this really busy tertiary hospital.
Wow.
Who's going to pick up if all of you are doing 24-hour shifts? Nobody has reserved to pick up your bits and pieces. So and finish that shift,
So stop vomiting and get on with it.
Yeah. So and that's one instance. I had a lot of kindness and a lot of and even that I feel was, people were well intentioned, but unfortunately it was just not the time as an ONG registrar that it was quite uphill from that perspective. And then Annie, obviously, I would say that that's one challenge. I think otherwise, mostly I would say, apart from your day-to-day challenges of obstetrics and gynecology, how onerous that is in terms of hours, in terms of and especially me being a bit nerdy, always wanted to do something or the other, studying this, and that's why I got the DDU and got a couple of other fellowships in management, because I just can't have enough. So I feel like a sponge. I feel there's still so much more to learn and we have so far to go. So anyway, so I think then that doesn't help when you have that kind of a personality, because then you can get overloaded and and it was not until I actually got diagnosed with breast cancer that I felt that was one of my points where I actually sat down and looked at how much I was doing and found that I was doing quite a lot more, and a lot of, I love education, I love teaching, I love this, I love that. And you may be enjoying it, but if you're sort of constantly almost every weekend out doing that, then I don't think that necessarily is that good a balance. So I think one thing that taught me, and I'm so lucky that journey ended well and went well, and I obviously went through the different phases, which in itself is so common now, Annie. So it basically taught me that there has to be better balance for everything. Your family is important. Your own self-care is important. I love going to the gym with my children. Love little pleasures in life, and I think you learn not to sweat the small stuff, because you think, well, who cares? Or just try to bring a more resilience about some things that you may have found stressful prior to that. So I felt that there was definitely a change in my personality. And it's interesting that my caring team, my medical and the team of carers who looked after me were amazing. And I was told early that women who survive well, often when they survey them at the 2-year mark or the 5-year mark, they're actually in a better position, Annie, because although they have gone through the trauma of being diagnosed with something like that, but if it's caught early and they have managed to go through the different hoops and jump through them and land on the feet, which can be very difficult when you're going through it, they find that often women have then learned to value more things than they may have at their baseline. Even things like healthy eating, exercise. We know how much meditation, yoga, all of these things are so critically important in leading a balanced and fruitful life. So I felt that was a challenge, but it taught me a lot. And I'm glad that it ended well, which is not the case for many people. And in fact, women I journeyed with had, very difficult, and was really, really hard for us just as friends or as relatives or as, secondary people to see, and let alone what their own journeys and how difficult it has been for them with little children or diagnosed with a metastatic disease or, with far more challenging
it's certainly confronting and humbling. And I think you pinpointed that everyone who goes through something that is, life-threatening, really, unless you address it, it is the ultimate moment that makes you activate what you really value, and that is incredible that we can, what you said before too, that you go, because you're a personality a bit like me, but going, but I like everything, and so it's not as if many people go, well, do what you don't have to do it all. And then that's true. If you're doing things you don't want to do, well, definitely you want to remove those. But there are other people like us who go, oh, but I actually love everything. I'm a hyperactive little ever-ready battery, right? And so, but you can still be doing too much, that you're juggling it, but you're actually at a level that, as soon as something else happens, all those balls fall down. And so it's not that you don't like them. It actually then at times like that, it's incredible incredible that it actually, what do I love? You know, when you get that, you're in the doctor, you know, the surgery that day when you get that diagnosis. Yes. Instantly, what does your mind go to? And it's your family, your health. I've got to be healthier. I've got to spend more time. I've got to have more balance. I've got to invest in me, as in me doing nothing, or me feeding myself well, or me resting more, or me, you know, exercising, or seeing those friends that I don't catch up with as much, or all these sorts of things, which is balance, which is work-life balance. And it's really interesting because you're a great example of that you went through that time, and you can still go, after that, you can still, you know, have it all. You know, you can still come out and go, yes, I am a happy mum. I do juggle things. You have good days and bad days. You know, we're not saying it's not crazy busy sometimes, but you've still opened up your own practice. You're still collaborating at a very high level professionally. You're giving back to society. You know, I know you're an examiner for those who are coming through. You're an advocate for women and diversity. You're a spokesperson for your profession. You know, it's not as if, I think many people find that, you know, well, when you then slow down, it's almost like you need to slow down to reevaluate to actually achieve more, you know, and that's, I'm a big advocate for that.
That's right. And I think that self-care is so important. It's very easy to, like we said, layer, but then it may be that you're overdoing it and not really realizing until something like that happens, and then you rethink and you're like, oh goodness, that's a long list.
And some things don't take that long, you know. Some things just taking a bit of a mindfulness moment, or actually stopping to have lunch and have a little break, and to, you know, just have some time out, or to just spend a little time just reading a book or doing things. You know, they don't have to be really long time consuming.
You're right, Annie, you're right. Oh, the bushwalks, I love your, you know, bushwalking.
Oh, my bushwalking.
That is so amazing. I'm going to go with you soon. I can't wait. Just that connection with nature and with and just that slowing down a little bit is so important. I think sometimes if you're just so go all the time, and it's such a privilege. I think for me, I feel it's such a privilege to journey with women at different stages of their either pregnancy or menopause or whatever it is, you know, whether it's a fertility-based journey or whether as a generalist obstetrician and gynecologist, we do see a lot of variety of women's issues, gynecological issues, ovarian cysts and heavy menstrual bleeding. It's such a privilege to be able to be part of that and, you know, just be part of the solution for them if possible, obviously. And I do feel very lucky to be in a team that's working together with the same philosophy, but B, every day being able to serve the community through just what you do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we could talk all day, but I'd love to finish up with then, what would you tell your young self now? What the women who represent you, you know, you're in your 20s, your 30s, what would you actually tell them to believe in? What is a successful woman? What is a balanced life?
Yeah, I think family-centric is very important, whatever family looks like for you. We're not all lucky to have been born into supportive homes, and sometimes I recognize how difficult it is to break that negative cycle and the environment that unfortunately some young women are put in, you very well know. And I would say dream it and do it, because it is possible. It is possible for each one of us. Sometimes the road might be more uphill than for others is a little bit more easier, but nothing is impossible. You will find a way. If you're really, really, really motivated, there is a way, and that light is going to shine through, and somewhere you're going to find your way, both in your career, both in your personal life, I think you've got to have the hope, the vision, and the persistence. That combination of those three things, the sky is the limit.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And as you said before, that's right. If you try one door, go to a different door.
Make your own door.
Exactly. Go to a different door, make your own door. Sometimes also go to another level and go, well, who said the door opens that way? There's plenty of ways. And I've actually embraced that when I said, okay, you're supposed to open it this way. Well, what if it's actually the opposite?
What a good way.
Think outside the box and go, well, there you go. I've had plenty of moments like that in my life and my career.
And sometimes I've had moments where I've looked back and I thought, I don't even want that door anymore.
Exactly. I went in there. I thought that was all I wanted. And then I got...
Why was I pining for that?
Overrated? That's right.
Doors open in life that happens and you think, oh, okay. Because you haven't actually conditioned yourself to think beyond what is your safe comfort zone.
Yeah.
But sometimes opening different doors takes you in directions that you may have never envisioned. And they're far better than perhaps what the plan A you had for yourself.
Exactly. Beautifully said. Well, it's been a delight having you on this podcast. You are truly inspirational and just a wonderful, wonderful example of successful women living your own life your way in your terms. And I celebrate you and what you have achieved. And I thank you for what you give back to the women in the community. For those of you...
You're such a role model. We're learning from you every single day. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And everybody, you can find my social leads for Dr. Talat Uppal. You can certainly Google the Women's Health Road if you're in Sydney and you're looking for a fantastic obstetrician gynaecologist who is just totally passionate about holistic women's health. And I wish you all the best and thanks for being
Thank you, Annie.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbins.com, where you can download my free resources, get connected on social, and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes and, of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.